What secret would ruin your life if it came out? What I actually did during the 2 months I spent at a work training program. You see, for 5 years my family believed I was a committed father and husband, when in reality, I was a functioning alcoholic. Every morning I would get up at 5:30, drag myself into the shower, scrub off the smell of whiskey, pop a couple of breath mints, kiss my wife and my son Josh, and head to work, like I had my life together. Everyone thought I was the quiet, focused guy in the office, the one who stayed late and carried a mug of coffee around. What they didn't know was that the mug had more whiskey than coffee. What they didn't see was the flask tucked inside my jacket. I would sneak into the bathroom every couple of hours to sip enough to keep the shakes away, but not enough to slur my speech. I had it down to a science. I knew exactly how much I could drink and still fool everyone. At home, it was the same act. I helped Josh with his homework. I asked Jennifer about her day. I kissed them goodnight. And the second the house went quiet, I would sit out on the back porch alone, just me and the bottle. It stayed that way for years, until a Tuesday that punched a hole straight through the fake life I had built. I was 3 drinks in before lunch that day. Work had been brutal, and I had started early to take the edge off. Then my phone rang. It was Jennifer. She was crying. She told me Josh had fallen off the monkey bars at school and needed to go to the hospital. She begged me to come get them because her car was in the shop. I looked at my hands shaking, and my heart sank straight to the floor. There was no way I could drive. No way I could even get near them without reeking of liquor. So I lied. I told her I was stuck in some important client meeting, and that I would call a cab for her. She didn't argue. She just said, really quietly, okay. When I hung up, I stood there in my office feeling like the biggest piece of crap on the planet. I dumped the bottle down the office sink, splashed cold water on my face, stared at myself in the mirror like I was trying to see a way out. I hated who I saw. I waited hours until I was sure the alcohol had worn off before heading to the hospital. When I got there, Josh was asleep with his little arm in a cast, and Jennifer was sitting beside him. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just looked at me. He kept asking where you were. I could barely breathe hearing that. That night, I didn't drink. I sat at the kitchen table long after Jennifer went to bed, clicking through rehab centers online with this pit sitting in my gut. I knew if I didn't do something I was going to lose them. I already could feel the space growing between us, and it scared me worse than anything. 2 days later, I sat Jennifer down. I had this whole story ready about a special work training program that would take 2 months, but could lead to a promotion. She raised an eyebrow, and I could tell she didn't totally buy it, but she didn't press. She smiled a little and said, if it's good for you, it's good for us. Leaving was one of the hardest things I had ever done. Walking into rehab felt like ripping my own skin off. The first week was hell. Withdrawal hit me like a freight train. My hands shook so bad I couldn't even hold a pen. I was angry all the time. I kept thinking about how I had almost let alcohol matter more than my own kid, about how I had become the kind of man I swore I would never be. But somewhere around the 3rd week, when my head started to clear, this little hope started to creep in. Like maybe I could really change. Maybe it wasn't too late. When I finally came home 2 months later, it wasn't the dramatic movie moment I had imagined. It was awkward. Jennifer smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Josh jumped into my arms and started telling me everything I had missed. It was like my heart cracked wide open right there. I could feel how much damage I had done just in the way Jennifer stood back and watched like she didn't know if she could trust where I was. But that night, we sat down for dinner. I didn't realize until I was sitting there that it was the first time I had been fully sober at the dinner table in years. Everything felt so clear. Josh looked up at me with these big blue eyes and said, "Did you learn a lot at your work school, Daddy?" I looked at Jennifer. She gave me this tiny nod, like she was giving me a chance. I smiled at Josh, feeling my throat tighten up. "I learned the most important lesson of all," I said, "that nothing is more important than being here, really here, with you and Mom." And I meant every word.